Hello and welcome to the Plant-Based Revolution podcast with your host Neil Damerel from My Lifestyle Coach. I'd like to welcome you to episode number 3 of the podcast, and first of all I want to thank you again for listening, taking your time out of your precious day to spend some time with me talking about the benefits of a plant-based lifestyle, not just on yourself but on the planet as well. In today's episode I'm going to be talking about the best ways in which vegans can get protein in their diet. So I'm just going to start with what is the difference between a vegan and a vegetarian. So following a plant-based diet, for me, it's just encouraging more people to consume more fresh, whole grains, fruits and vegetables in their diet, and that will definitely have a benefit to their health. But if you're transitioning it and you want to go from a vegan or a vegetarian to a vegan diet, what things do you need to know first to understand the difference in what foods are allowed or not allowed if you're following a vegetarian or a vegan diet? So to begin with, a vegetarian diet, most people are quite familiar with, in terms of excludes any meat, poultry, seafood from the diet. So any eggs, dairy, etc. will be allowed, but nothing that is meat orientated in terms of following a vegetarian diet. If you go one step further, you're going to be consuming a vegan diet, and that again will be excluding all the meat, poultry and seafood from the diet. However, you'll be excluding anything that does come from an animal, so that will include eggs and honey as well if you go another step further. So even though eggs and honey, the animal hasn't been killed in the process for you to consume those products, you're still excluding those products from your diet. That will also include any dairy as well. So on a vegetarian diet, you'll still be consuming cheese, milk. On a vegan diet, you'll be excluding any cheese and milk from your diet as well. So anything that comes from an animal, you'll be excluding altogether. So having been sort of a vegan, vegetarian for over 10 years now, like I mentioned in my previous podcast about following more of a plant-based diet, so on occasion I will have the odd bit of meat and dairy, just as convenience really, while the world gets up to speed and provides more exciting vegetarian and vegan options, especially when eating out and on the go. But in doing so, I've come to understand that many people do worry about how they're going to get enough protein in their diet when switching from a meat and dairy-free diet, or switching to a meat and free dairy diet. So that's probably one of the biggest things that I get asked all the time. And if you've ever transitioned and you said to someone, I'm going to a vegan diet, probably the number one question they'll ask you is that, where are you going to get your protein from? Before even asking you why, what your reasons are behind it, where are you going to get your protein? And you would think this day and age, with the growth of veganism, vegetarianism, more people transition to a plant-based diet, more options that are available in store, on the go, in terms of the foods we consume, that protein would be, a protein question would still be so prominent in terms of someone's questions directed towards a vegan. It really, really fascinates me. I think this is the case because most people in the Western world will gain most of their protein requirements from animal products, which are high in protein. So meat, for example, so if we take lean beef, 100 grams of lean beef will contain 36 grams of protein per 100 grams, while chicken breast will contain 33 grams of protein per 100 grams. So when you consider that the recommended daily allowance for a human is roughly around 0.8 grams per kilogram per day, meaning that a 70 kilo human would need around 56 grams of protein per day. So if you took a 100 gram portion that would provide 50% of a person's recommended daily allowance. So while 100 grams may seem a lot to consume in one sitting, many people who think about what they eat throughout the day would consume that 100 grams throughout the day, so maybe chicken salad for lunch and steak for dinner. So as you can see, because meat are very high concentrated sources of protein, it's very easy for people to feel confident in their meal choices, to understand that they're getting enough protein in their diet when they're consuming animal-based products. However, there is a downside to this, and the reasons why adding more of a plant-based diet into your lifestyle definitely can benefit your health. So while there is a good source of protein in these animal products, they also contain no traces of carbohydrates or fibre, while being very high in saturated fat and cholesterol. So if we take again the lean beef scenario, 100 grams of lean beef will contain 6 grams of saturated fat, which is 30% of a person's recommended daily allowance. That is only one item on the plate, excluding anything that person may consume throughout the day, breakfast, lunch and dinner, what goes with it, any snacks on the side, for example. So this could be very unhealthy for someone in long term if they relied heavily on these sources as your only protein source in your diet. So for me, as a result, consuming a very vegan, diet-rich diet high in plant-based protein can not only help reduce your saturated fat intake, but can also provide enough protein to keep you strong and healthy. So what is the best way of doing this, I hear you ask? So a lot of people would come to me and say, how can I go to a plant-based diet? Where am I going to get my protein? So we're just going to touch on that and highlight the best ways that you can get protein in your diet for a vegan, when following a vegan diet. So the best way to consume enough protein is to consume a balanced diet that's filled with a variety of food groups that would provide you with your recommended daily allowance of protein. So while consuming high consumptions of meat, obviously we said before, that is going to contain very strong sources, high sources of protein per gram, if you're consuming meat or chicken, etc. So what you need to think about when consuming a plant-based diet or a vegan diet, if you're transitioning into a vegan diet, is to have a balanced diet throughout the day where we're using a variety of sources to get our recommended daily allowance of protein throughout the day, rather than focusing in just solely on one food group or concentrated food group source, such as meat, chicken, turkey, etc. But in doing so, this will also help you to increase the amount of fibre, vitamins and minerals in your diet by consuming a plant-rich diet. So the best way in doing this as follows. So I do have 8 tips, which I'm just going to cover now in terms of how you can add these variety of foods into your diet and maintain your recommended daily allowance of protein. So number 1 would be your veggies. So dark leafy green vegetables are a great source of protein as well as iron. So 100 grams of spinach contain 2.9 grams of protein, while kale contains 4.3 grams of protein per 100 grams. So I understand for some of you that have come from a meat-based diet, this may seem very little, but as I said before, you're not relying on spinach or kale to be your main source of protein in your diet. We're consuming a variety of whole foods that's going to give us our recommended daily allowance of protein throughout the day, rather than just solely focusing on one food group such as beef. Number 2, so hemp protein. So hemp protein powder or seeds in their original form contain 47 grams per 100 grams of protein. This is amazing. The hemp protein, if no one's had it before, is a really, really good source of protein in your diet. I would normally add a tablespoon of protein powder to my porridge in the mornings, or maybe some nuts and seeds in with a salad, to make a complete meal. So there's loads of products out there that do some really good hemp protein powders, protein shakes that you can consume as well. I'll be focusing on those on another podcast, but if you guys got any questions about the best sources and products of hemp protein, feel free to get in touch with me and I can give you some personal recommendations of some hemp protein powders that I've used in the past in terms of their flavour and taste. But definitely hemp protein is up there with one of the best sources of plant-based proteins that you can consume on a daily basis. Number 3, so if you think about your diet, you're transitioning away from any dairy or milk, so you want to be transitioning to other alternatives like soya, almond and coconut milk, which are all great sources of dairy-free milks that are easily accessible on the market now, and there's a growing list of options in the supermarket. So I know when I started out you could only get soya, but you can get soya, almond, coconut, oat milk. There's loads of varieties, which is fantastic. So a lot of these have been fortified with extra calcium, vitamins and minerals, which is excellent, and they also contain roughly 2.5 grams per 100 grams of protein. So just as you would do if you were making your porridge with milk, you'd be replacing that with soy milk. So again, adding extra protein into your diet, or replacing the protein you're losing from the milk you were consuming beforehand, and then maybe adding, like I said, the hemp protein on top to add extra protein to your meal. Another great source of plant-based protein would be nut butters. So I'm a massive fan of peanut butter. I'm not sure if you are. So if, peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, there's a big variety of options out there now, which is amazing. These nut butters you can get, I would say personally go for the one with no sugar, so the cheaper versions that you get from Asda or supermarket, Sainsbury's, other supermarkets available that are very, very sort of, the basic ones are very, very can be high in sugar, high in oil, so try and maybe spend that a little bit more extra money, and you'll get better quality nut butter as well. Also look for any ingredients that contain, or any nut butters that contain palm oil. So having watched and done a lot more research in terms of the impact of palm oil forestation on the planet, my advice would be to consume no nut butters with any palm oil. So you'll be doing a huge favour for the planet and saving a lot of trees, and it's something that definitely is a big topic that is around at the moment. So spend an extra bit of money, get a really good nut butter, ideally 100% nuts, no oils or added sugars or palm oil in there whatsoever, and this will give you sort of around 15 to 25 grams of protein per 100 grams, depending on the nut butter you may buy. Obviously it's going to vary between peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter for example, but again, these are great to add into a smoothie, or I make a lovely, delicious peanut butter spinach smoothie, which is amazing. Or you can add it to a bagel with some bananas. That's a really good recovery for myself after a run. Or even just peanut butter on toast, that kind of thing. Or even a scoop into your porridge when you're making it as well. Just adds a bit of extra protein, a bit more flavour as well. So that's another great way of getting the nut butter into your daily diet. Another great source is quinoa. Very, very popular nowadays. It's grown in popularity over the years. It's very new when I started out, but ready available in most supermarkets these days. Quinoa is a really good product. It's very high in essential mineral acids, high in fibre, B vitamins and dietary minerals, and also for people that are following a gluten-free diet, it's gluten-free. So if you want to transition away from rice or any pastas, quinoa is amazing because it's very it's gluten-free, so it's perfect for people who struggle with any gluten intolerance. Quinoa as well contains 4 to 5 grams per 100 grams of protein, which makes it, like I said, a real great replacement. And if you think you're adding that to a meal, it's added protein into your diet. If you're having like a bean chili with some quinoa, you got the beans with a load of protein, loads of fibre, and you got the quinoa as well, which is again just an added extra protein in your meal, so it's perfect. Another great source is tofu. Tofu has been used in Asia for centuries and contains 8 grams of protein per 100 grams. And there's loads of ways you can cook tofu. You can fry it, bake it. Acts as a really good egg replacer if you're making any baking recipes. And again, very low in saturated fat, so it's a really, really good way of getting more protein in your diet, and a good egg replacer. Like I said, if you want to make scrambled tofu, so scrambled egg, that kind of thing, it's really good. And it's playing around with tofu. I know when I first got it and first started tasting it myself, it can taste quite bland. There's not really any flavour, but after trying a few recipes, you can marinate it, which is amazing because that really absorbs all the flavours by marinating it. You can fry it in different flavours as well. Add it into a sandwich. There's a variety of ways that you can cook tofu. So it's a case of practice, but it's a really, really good source of protein. Lentils are also a great source of protein as well. Amazing alternative if you're making any chilies or curries, to get some lentils in there. 26 grams per 100 grams of protein. And so these are the powerhouses of a plant-based world. You want to consume loads of beans and pulses because this is going to be an amazing way of getting all your protein into your diet if you're following a vegan diet or plant-based diet predominantly. So make this a mainstay of your store cupboard at home. So it's nearly as much as 100 grams of lean beef or chicken in terms of the protein content, and they're very low in saturated fat, high in fibre, which is amazing, and like I said, can really add some depth to your dish and really bulk out your dish if you're taking away the chicken from the curry, for example, or the beef from the curry. So maybe have a look at some meals you can make, such as a lentil pie instead of a meat pie, or again, like I said, with your curries or your soups, it's great alternatives to add in there. So you've got your green and red lentils, both fantastic, both taste great as well. And that highlights, I mentioned there briefly beans as well. So similar to lentils, beans can contain anything from 9 to 13 grams of protein per 100 grams. Again, really high in fibre, which is essential in lowering your cholesterol. I think in the Western world we really lack the fibre in our diets. People kind of talk about where you're going to get your protein from, but I think we should be having a debate about, where you're getting your fibre. A lot of people are just lacking in fibre all the time. All the processed foods are just stripped of fibre, etc. So maybe think about, replacing that meat chili with a bean chili, and it's a great way of getting more fibre in your diet as well as protein and less saturated fat as well. Think about adding, harriet beans, chickpeas. There's loads of beans out there you can buy, all ready made or in tin form, so really quick to prepare as well. Add them to a salad dish, a great way. Or you can blend them up. So if anybody There's tasted hummus, that chickpeas, so they're a great snack. Take some hummus with you, some carrots, perfect little snack that you can have throughout the day as well. And again, it's just getting in some more proteins into your diet on a daily basis. So the key really to gain all the protein your body requires, like I said, when consuming a vegan diet, you would have to add these food groups in as much as possible during your meals and throughout the day on a daily basis, so then you're not going to be lacking in essential nutrients. So for me, I've kind of touched on how you would add those into your day. I'm just going to highlight what a typical day may look like if you were going to add those into your lifestyle, and how you'd get enough protein in your diet following this simple meal plan. So your day may look like the following. So you might have your breakfast in the morning, like I said before, porridge, some soy milk, top it off with a bit of hemp protein. You get the plain or the chocolate flavour, which is really good, so add a bit more taste to it. Maybe a banana, some nuts as well. Snack wise, you could have a couple of rice cakes with a couple spreads of peanut butter on. That's a great tasting snack. I love it. Or add even a banana on top of that, and that's lovely as well. Lunch can be just quinoa, some roasted vegetables, topped off with some sunflower seeds. Like we said before, nuts and seeds are amazing. Just sprinkle them on your salad or on your roasted vegetables. Just you don't have to consume loads of nuts in one handful and think about one sauce. You just kind of add it throughout your meals. So you could have a post-workout shake, like I said before, protein shake, amazing. And then look at increasing the lentils in your diet. Make a lentil shepherd's pie, lentil curry, great sources of protein. So perfect for a daily diet. And you think this diet, it's what I consume generally on a daily basis, and you just feel light, energized, full of life. You're not taking ages for the food to digest. If you're having quite a heavy, meat-based meal, if you were going to have a chicken pie, a meat pie, those quite heavy and stodgy. So these are great meals that makes you feel energized, alive, and very high in fibre, low in fat. So it's going to be great for your cholesterol, help lower your blood pressure. Numerous things, numerous benefits. So hope you found that helpful today. I have written a blog post on this as well. So what I'll be doing, I'll be posting the link to the article in the show notes as well. So all of what I've discussed is in written form, so you guys can have a read at your leisure about how you can increase or how you can get more protein in your diet when following a vegan diet. So the best ways you can do that. The meal plan is on there as well, so you can follow that. And there's also a little gift of a little post-workout protein shake recipe, the peanut butter and spinach recipe that I tend to consume post-workout or even as a breakfast in the mornings. Fantastic way of consuming more protein in my diet, but also a delicious way to start the day. So that'll be on there as well. So have a go at the post-workout protein shake and let us know how you get on. And thank you again for listening. So I would like to say again, thank you for taking your time out. Time is precious, so I really appreciate you sticking with me, and I hope you've enjoyed my third podcast. If you are listening and you want to shout out, I'd love to hear from you. Post some comments in the links below, or give us a review over on iTunes as well. What I will be doing, so if you giving us a review, I'll give you a shout out on the next podcast, and we can build a community of people trying to promote more plant-based living and encourage everybody to just get more plant-based meals into their diet. And again, like I said, help the planet and help the nation and the world to be healthier one meal at a time. So again, thank you very much. Appreciate your time today, and we'll see you again next time.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.